the future of our forests. And here is, some that we talked about this, Taylor talked about this already, some of the biggest stresses or threats against our forests. Habitat loss, invasive species, climate change is huge. And I'm going to talk about public awareness as well. And I'll tell you why in a few minutes, but it is a threat to our forests. We're talking about the future of forests here, so I think it's an important one to touch on. And so certainly there's a lot of facts that point to the notion that we need a lot of contiguous forests on our landscape. Certainly when you get up in the Muskokas and north, there are obviously large tracts of land. You get down to southern Ontario, and it's extremely fragmented. And it's been scientifically shown that you need at least 30% forest cover in order for that forest to maintain itself as a healthy, diverse ecosystem. If you get anything less than that, it's going to fall apart. So we have, as I pointed out, some regions of southern Ontario that are extremely fragmented. The forests have been taken away, and it's really under threat. And so, we get into situations where we feel a huge amount of habitat loss and a lot of development. And any of you folks know, as you're heading up to Georgian Bay, you go up 400 and you look at the areas adjacent to the highway where there used to be beautiful hardwood forests, and the trees have been stripped out, the soils have been stripped out, and they planted these houses up in here. And it really is incredible. And so you can look from a land use planning perspective, we're losing significant prime agricultural land, we're losing incredibly diverse forests, and we're ending up with houses. Now we know our population is growing, we have to go somewhere, but it just always seems to me that there's something really wrong when you look at this kind of situation. And what's really fascinating, again, kind of our connection to our forests. We have a love, we have an affinity. We as Canadians are incredibly passionate about our forests. So what you get is people that go and they strip out all these forests and they plant these houses, and then they call it King Oaks. Or Maple Heights or whatever. And what was really funny, I was actually coming down Keele Street and I noticed this. And I looked at it and there it is. So that's what, and there's a sign, yeah. So, it really is incredible what you see in this kind of development. We talked about actually, Taylor, you had the same picture, it kind of split out, but this picture of before and after with the emerald ash borer. So obviously I'm not going to get into all the details of how big of a threat it is, but it's huge and it's getting worse. Here's a series of some of the invasive species that we're having to consider. Taylor already spoke to a lot of these. I just wanted to show this up as the extent of some of the invasive species that are out there. This is actually a picture of a science center. And I was asked years ago to go and do a forest management plan for the science center. And this is an area in the back of it. And I just like, oh my God, look at this stuff, this grape ivy that just completely encapsulated the forest that's underneath. And so I thought, well, that's pretty significant, pretty severe. I went in under it to see, okay, what's it killing out here? And the only good news was it was buckthorn. So, okay, well, the winter is. But yeah, it's extremely invasive. Climate change, of course. We all are familiar with climate change, extreme weather events that we're getting, the downspouts that we're getting for wind, devastating areas, the drought that's causing severe mortality, and certainly the flooding that we're getting, the wind damage that we're getting, and the floods that we saw down in Toronto. It's extreme weather events. Somebody was mentioning earlier about increasing temperatures. Yeah, maybe, but I think everybody's starting to recognize that it's those extreme weather events that are really starting to impact our lives. And certainly when you start talking about tree species, the future of tree species, all sorts of modeling going on how that's changing, how the growing conditions, how the temperatures are changing. That's going to restrict where trees are growing now and change the future of where they could potentially grow. This is a picture of the current range of white pine that you can see across the eastern seaboard, and give it a 2060 where it's not going to be, and it's going to be potentially here. Now, it's interesting when you talk to folks and they say, well, okay, well, that's really good, it'll just move north. No problem. The problem is that the soils aren't going to move north. So it's all, trees and species and all that sort of thing are yes, there's a climate element to it, but there's also the soils. And and the moisture and all those things that go with it as well. So it isn't necessarily just going to shift north. So there is concern there for sure. The best science right now, and I get this, I'm sure a lot of the foresters are the same question, is okay, given climate change, given increasing temperatures and those changing conditions, what tree should I be planting? And the best science right now is not to start going out and planting banana plants out in your backyard, but planting a diverse amount of forests. And large, contiguous, healthy forests are the best bet to be able to adapt to climate change as we see it progressing. To the point where, and there was an interesting discussion this morning about, removing too many of the ash or too many of the beech because you're likely to take out trees that potentially will be resistant to the conditions that are coming along. So fine, so try to keep that diversity there. Not saying that they'll all survive, but at least you'll have some there that will likely survive. The others will die out. But again, contiguous, so that the trees could technically move. Large, so that you've got the diversity over 30%, and healthy, so that they are going to be resistant to those changes as we move forward. And we're very fortunate with Forests Ontario to be working with the Ministry of Natural Resources and the provincial government to deliver the 50 million tree program. So we're trying to address that business of habitat loss. The program is targeted to plant 50 million trees by the year 2025. And these are the areas, these are the number of trees that we've planted to date. Pretty close to 20 million. So we're right on track with the whole program, which is fantastic. It's great to have this program. Again, it's going to be 50 million trees. It's been identified that we actually need to plant about 1 billion trees here in southern Ontario to get that average up to about 30% for forest cover. So there's a whole lot of trees that need to be planted in order to do that. But this is an absolutely great start, and we're very, very happy that the government continues to support this program. The climate change aspect of this, one of the things that I really wanted to point out, and I'm going to get back to this business of awareness here in a minute, but the climate change aspect, again, the best science out there is we have to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Climate change, the greenhouse effect, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. And one of the best tools we have to sequester carbon are trees. 50% of that tree is made up of carbon. So it sucks up a pile of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and puts it into the wood of the tree. The one thing the next step to that is to take the tree and put it into wood products. And so because the wood product, we've got all sorts of wood products around here, it continues to store the carbon. One of the constant comments that I hear out there, sort of from the far left NGO groups, is that we need to protect our forests, because by protecting our forests, we're going to lock up and sequester more carbon. That simply is not true. A mature forest is carbon neutral. Trees will die, they'll fall down, they'll decompose, that carbon's released. As new trees grow, it sequesters carbon, but it's zero. The net gain is zero because of the trees decomposing. If you maintain that healthy forest and take the product sustainably off the forest, you plant little seedlings, they grow, they sequester carbon, and at the end of the cycle, you take some of the wood products from there and turn it into whatever kind of furniture or wood products you can imagine. That holds that carbon as in storage for that much longer, whatever, another 100 years or so. So it's really, and it's been identified time and time again that is the best way to sequester our carbon. And I just wanted to give you just a quick, when you think about that, okay, here's a map of Ontario. This is the Crown lands, essentially private property. All that forest is managed under the Crown Forest Sustainability Act. So Westwood, for instance, it's Crown, 50% Crown, 50% private, is managed under the Crown Forest Sustainability Act. And by the name of the act, it's sustainably managed. So thinking back, all the different values that are considered, all the different, the way that the diversity of the forest is maintained, and Michael talked about bringing it back to that white pine component, all those things are considered in that forest management planning process. So it really is, when you look at all that forest, It's a huge potential carbon sink, sustainably managed.